In a reality that refuses to understand and often breeds denial, the Demon King refused but to ignore the truth standing before him, where he stood stunned by the inability of his black flames, which he had long boasted of, to scratch the heroes, wondering bitterly how the hero's blade managed to pierce his hard scales and settle in the depths of his heart. He could not comprehend what was happening, for he saw himself as superior to everyone. He who entered the Demon King Academy at the top and graduated as the exemplary student and had dedicated himself to studying the Demon King standard, that foundational theory established by the first emperor, with a depth and sincerity surpassing anyone else. He applied the rules to the letter, building the tower and kidnapping princesses as the standard requires, then nurturing the heroes who came to save them, believing that their anger and sorrow were the ultimate feast for a Demon King, and that killing them early was a waste. The standards taught him to fatten them up before devouring them. For the stronger the hero, the more delicious the meal, and he followed this approach with absolute devotion, believing that world domination was only a matter of time. And after absorbing the emotions of anger and sorrow from countless beings, he became a Demon King unmatched in power. Thus, lying in the dirt, covered in blood, he screamed, questioning the reason for his end in this humiliating manner. His eyes filled with confusion and shock at this illogical defeat. The hero looked at him with disgust, describing him and the rest of the demons as identical trash, explaining sarcastically that demons set up this situation for themselves, yet always seems shocked by the result, a matter for which he finds no explanation. And when the Demon King denounced his speech, the hero revealed to him that their kidnapping of the famous princess was merely a recognized signal to start the Demon King's activity and an invitation to stop him. The hero mocked the stupidity of the idea of killing the human king, explaining that doing so would plunge the kingdom into chaos. For if the king were kidnapped, those greedy for the throne would start a civil war, and thus human wrath would not be directed towards the Demon King, meaning he would not evolve or increase in strength, which contradicts the teachings of the standard he sanctifies. The hero added, mocking and grateful at the same time, that if the heroes do not go to the demons in the tower, the demons send monsters to the villages, which helps the heroes train seriously, but it becomes much better upon reaching the tower. For the first floor is always stacked with the weak, making it an ideal place for leveling up and refining current skills. The Demon King remembered with regret how he was careful not to kill the heroes halfway to harvest more energy. Believing this was what the standard dictated to him, the hero pulled his sword from the Demon King's body, and the Demon King screamed from the intensity of the pain. And here, the hero confronted him with the harsh truth. When the tower becomes old and boring, they simply kill the Demon King. So a new king appears with a new tower, for the entire place is nothing but a hunting ground designed specifically for heroes. The laughter of the other heroes rose as they mocked him, thanking him for helping them raise their levels, describing him sarcastically not just as a Demon King, but as the godfather who nurtured them. The heroes stood over the body of their exhausted opponent, expressing rudely their satisfaction with the abundant loot, and thanking him sarcastically for providing the best place to increase their levels and train hard. The Demon King repeated the word Godfather in daze, disbelieving the shock he received that his great tower was to them nothing but a training ground for collecting points. And despite the hero's admission of his opponent's toughness and that many heroes had met their demise, he belittled those sacrifices, considering with indifference that they only contributed to increasing his personal fame. While the hero was bidding him farewell dismissively in preparation to kill him, the Demon King's anger ignited from the mockery and insult he was subjected to. Wondering with a burning sensation about the futility of the Demon King's standard if this was the end, he refused to surrender to death in vain in this humiliating way. So he screamed with all his might, declaring himself the Demon King, while immense energy began to gather around him. But before he could do anything, the hero cut off his head. And in the last moments of his life, he saw the other heroes laughing and mocking him, threatening them through his sharp gaze that they would pay dearly for insulting him, and swore a definitive vow of that revenge. But the hero stood beside him, warning his comrades against damaging the head due to his greedy desire to seize the horns. The hero suddenly noticed strange sparks emitting from the body lying before him. As the Demon King decided in those moments to sacrifice the last drop of his life to achieve his goal, the hero realized too late that something dangerous was about to happen. The hero screamed, ordering his comrades to flee immediately. A terrifying energy exploded from the Demon King's body, causing a massive boom, and everything vanished amidst a huge explosion and the panicked screams of the heroes. In the final moments of the Demon King, he realized bitterly that the standard was completely wrong, and that the heroes used it to mock them. He wished to get one more chance to ignore that standard, and even feed it to the goblins in revenge for what happened. A voice calling the name Piers Das pierced the stillness of the darkness, causing him to wake up and open his eyes suddenly. He looked around in extreme confusion, trying to comprehend what was happening and wondering in amazement if he was still alive. Voices rose, urging him to advance quickly to the podium to realize that the name being called belonged to him. Piers Diaz was in shock at what was happening. While another person urged him to ascend the podium, the academy principal interrupted him, scolding him for his distraction on his graduation day while being the genius student. And when his eyes fell upon the red badge, the symbol of completing the Demon King Academy, he realized he had returned in time 15 years into the past, specifically to the graduation ceremony. As the graduates were asked to ascend the podium, he realized, despite his ignorance of the reason for his return, that this was his golden opportunity. One of the professors asked him to prepare as the top student, Piers Das, to take the oath on behalf of the new Demon Kings. The glowing laws stood before Piers Das, reminding him of the Demon King standard, which mandates building a tower within the domain, kidnapping a prince or princess, playing the mastermind role by causing chaos and leaving clues, nurturing heroes to harvest energy from them, and finally filling the lower floors with weak monsters to increase difficulty gradually. He looked at them with disgust, for those standards he had previously memorized by heart until he was nauseated by them, and devoted his entire life to adhering to their principles with extreme precision, were in his eyes now nothing but the garbage that led him to his doom and turned him into a mere puppet manipulated by heroes. While standing amidst the graduation ceremony, he asked himself about the point of swearing before everyone to follow these rules for the rest of his life. While knowing their catastrophic result, he felt an overwhelming rage at the mere thought that they would ask him to follow those laws again. His silence did not last long as the official called him, asking him to step forward to recite the great standard as the top of his class. But Piers interrupted expectations with his shocking and curt reply when he announced his total refusal. A state of confusion and amazement prevailed among his fellow graduates who did not comprehend what was happening. He did not stop at refusing, but screamed, declaring that he could not swear to such a ridiculous oath, describing following the standard as the most stupid and degenerate act one could do. And he confirmed loudly before everyone that those laws are nothing but trash, which increased the intensity of the situation. Shock and horror dominated the faces of the demons and students present at this unprecedented audacity. That was the defining moment when the greatest academic achiever turned into what they described as the madman of the century. Archduke Arcane Blair slammed his hand down in anger, threatening him with immediate execution on the spot for his audacity to insult the sacred Demon King standards. But he reconsidered, trying to contain the situation. So he decided to grant him a last chance given his past exemplary behavior and undeniable immense talent. He gave him the choice between withdrawing his reckless words and apologizing to the general demon world, or facing the punishment of assignment to the Aran region. The hall buzzed with anxious whispers about Orin, that dimension which is considered a graveyard for demon kings, and a sentence of certain death where they die there by the dozens. Some wondered angrily why a criminal like him was granted another chance instead of killing him. considering that an apology was not sufficient. The Archduke warned him in a stern tone that Erin is the worst region where countless demon kings lost their lives. But Piers interrupted him coldly and defiantly, asking to be sent there immediately. He announced his determination to go to prove that the demon king standards they sanctify are just nonsense, which struck the Archduke with complete astonishment. The Archduke lost his patience and screamed, scolding Piers, describing him as hopeless, and issued an immediate order to transfer him to Erin as his deployment zone. He decided to strip him of any privileges usually granted to top demon kings and deprived him of any demons accompanying him. The gate opened to swallow him with a strict order banning him from returning to the demon world until the conquest was complete. While falling through the portal, he accepted his fate, considering it an expected result of the chaos he caused. He realized in those moments that Erin is the place where the heroes who killed him in his previous life reside. He remembered that even before turning back time, he had chosen Erin himself in his first life, out of arrogance and the belief that the strongest must conquer the greatest difficulty. He admitted to himself that arrogance was what cost him his life previously, because the abundance of heroes there exploited his blind adherence to the standards. Finally, he landed safely, spreading his wings amidst the snows of the Irgust Mountains in the northern continent, ready to start his new journey. Piers resolved this time not to allow a repetition of what happened previously, deciding that he would be the one to exploit the heroes' standards for his benefit instead of being their victim. Events returned to before the start of the graduation ceremony. Gordon Derrick was preparing with extreme care, grooming his appearance as the first and best graduate of the Demon Academy. According to the regulations of the demon world, the Academy trains demons to serve kings, such that the top demon is assigned to serve the top demon king. This privilege sparked the envy and jealousy of other graduates who came in second and third, wishing they had exerted more effort to gain the honor of serving Lord Piers. Gordon saw that all demon kings were great, but he firmly believed that no one matched Lord Piers in greatness. He viewed him as a miracle, appearing once in a millennium, a descendant of demonic dragons whose mention history would immortalize. Considering graduating in the same year with him a massive blessing, his imagination ran wild, envisioning that together they would be able to conquer any dimension, imagining a huge statue bringing them together as a great king and his loyal assistant. He resolved with intense enthusiasm to carve his own name as well into the glorious pages of the demon world's history. But those rosy dreams collided with a shocking reality when he remembered the moment Piers screamed, describing the standards as garbage. Gordon was struck by an overwhelming shock that shattered his perspective, disbelieving that his idol despised the sacred standards. His mental image was completely destroyed amidst extreme amazement and horror at his king's words. The scene shifted to the deep region of the Irgust Mountains in the northern continent, where Gordon arrived carrying heavy bags amidst the snow. Signs of confusion and despair appeared on him as he wondered why all this happened. Piers was surprised to see him there, for he had been told previously that no demon would accompany him, yet one was sent in the end. When he looked closely, he recognized him and welcomed him. Gordon initiated by asking him while breaking down about the reason for doing that reckless act, but Piers pretended not to understand, asking what he meant. Gordon exploded in anger, reminding him of his insult to the standards before everyone, and that this caused their exile to the deadly Erin region, certain that he would die because of him. Piers tried to calm him down, mocking that he would tear his hair out from extreme worry, to which Gordon replied screaming that his hair was not the problem now. In those moments, Piers compared his assistant's current state to what he was before turning back time, where he was characterized by confidence and calmness. He remembered when Gordon used to encourage him, confirming that together they could overcome difficulties, and even claimed he wouldn't have felt enthusiastic had the mission not been in Erin. Piers realized that the state of panic affecting Gordon was justified given the difference in circumstances, and decided not to tell him the truth of his time travel so he wouldn't think him crazy. After catching his breath with difficulty, Gordon apologized for his previous breakdown and decided to commit to his duty given the reality. He soon returned to clinging to the standards, reminding that the first rule requires building a tower, but emphasized that it shouldn't be hidden or in a very harsh environment so heroes could find it. He pointed out with concern that their current location is surrounded by towering mountains and powerful monsters, making it dangerous and impossible for humans to reach, suggesting moving to another place. Piers rejected the proposal firmly, announcing his decision to build the tower in this specific place. He took out the tower seed and planted it in the frozen ground, explaining that it needed Demon King's blood to grow. Gordon was stricken with panic again, accusing him of violating the standards and throwing the Demon King's pride to the wind, to which Piers answered coldly that he never swore to follow those laws. Deep inside, Piers understood his assistant's disgust, realizing the difficulty for a demon to deny a doctrine carved deep into his bones. Piers justified to himself the difficulty of rejecting the standards, considering that unless one experiences death or something equally drastic, one cannot deny them because they are part of their composition as demons. He cut his hand sharply, directing his speech to Gordon to listen well, emphasizing that the Demon King's standards are just garbage, specifically mentioning their current region, Arryn. His blood flowed onto the tower seed to activate it, and the seed responded immediately, releasing a red beam of light and creating a magic circle in front of them. Piers explained that the reason lies in Arryn being overcrowded with heroes beyond description. While the tower was performing the identification process with its user, Piers Das of the Black Flame Demonic Dragon clan, and the tower began actually appearing, Piers revealed to his follower the bitter truth that humans, after destroying countless towers, realized how they work and used the Demon King standards as a weapon against them, which explains the constant death of kings in this region. Before Gordon's amazement, Piers mocked, saying they should be named hero standards because they no longer serve demons. The summoning of the towering tower amidst the snow was completed, and the two stood before it, contemplating its hugginess. Piers invited his assistant to enter, only to find the first floor completely empty. Gordon noticed with regret that a normal tower should contain complex structures and monsters, but this tower is empty and without any features, as if designed for a demon king stripped of privileges. The situation continued up to the 5th floor where the king's room was, which was also empty. Gordon accepted the reality regarding the tower that was already built, but insisted on the necessity of following at least the 2nd rule of the standards. He reminded Piers of that rule which mandates kidnapping a prince or princess, preferring to be close to the throne to ensure obtaining greater demonic energy. He asked permission to offer advice, so the king agreed. Then he displayed a map pointing out that the kingdom of Cororson is closest to the Irgast Mountains. He suggested with enthusiasm kidnapping the princess with the highest rank in succession to absorb the kingdom's anger and sorrow and grow quickly. Piers interrupted him, agreeing to the kidnapping idea despite anticipating Gordon's doubts, but he indicated the presence of a specific princess he had his eyes on. Gordon got excited and offered help in the mission, but Piers ordered him to stay to guard the tower under the pretext that the king's residence shouldn't remain empty. Gordon breathed a sigh of relief, believing his master had returned to his senses and that his previous actions were just stress resulting from graduation, giving hope to fix the situation. And when the assistant asked about the target's identity, Piers shocked him by choosing the kingdom of Hilderin, the nation located in the far south and the farthest possible point from the tower. Piers flew towards a distant castle window, identifying his target as the 13th princess, the one with the least presence and weakest influence among all. He stormed her room, announcing his arrival to take her, which made Gordon scream on the other end that this choice is the exact opposite of the standards. Meanwhile, the princess looked at him in amazement, wondering about his identity. Piers stormed the princess's room, announcing coldly that he is the Demon King and came to kidnap her, but she received him with a faint faint laugh that seemed strange in such a situation. Instead of fear, she asked him boldly and defiantly if he was confident in his ability to handle her, which aroused his astonishment. Piers considered her question strange, wondering to himself if she thought demon kings were a joke, and answered her with absolute confidence that he could, of course, as a demon king. Here, the princess surprised him with her immediate surrender, saying she would allow him to take her, which struck him with shock and amazement. Piers doubted her suspicious calmness and asked her about the scheme she was plotting, to which she replied that she had always expected this to happen someday being a princess. He warned her against trying to deceive him, confirming he would not be lenient and would not allow her to trap him because he is in a desperate situation as well. The princess denied the existence of any conspiracy, asking logically how she could set a trap when she didn't know of his coming today. Piers acknowledged to himself the validity of her logic, but could not shake off a strange feeling of unease. The princess cut his train of thought by inviting him to leave, extending her hand towards him. He carried her and flew back to his tower in the Ear Mountains. Upon his arrival, Gordon received him with eagerness and tension. Piers ordered the princess to be put in a corner on the 4th floor instead of the prison, justifying that by her lack of resistance and his willingness to grant her some leniency. Gordon agreed, then asked to speak about an important matter. The scene shifted to the 4th floor where the princess was left alone. She sat on the cold, hard floor, whispering to herself that she was truly kidnapped. She began contemplating the empty room, noting the absence of pillows, blankets, and servants, and the place's lack of beautiful gardens and all the aspects of luxury she was used to in the kingdom. Despite all this deprivation, she mumbled with a mysterious smile that the situation wasn't too bad. In the meantime, Gordon showed his master an invitation that arrived from the Tower of Monsters. He explained it was a welcoming party for the new Demon King, but Piers mocked the idea, considering it a pathetic attempt to harass him and flex power over him. He added that the pride of Demon Kings usually prevents them from cooperating, but the harsh and unprecedented conditions of Aaron forced them to abandon that pride and work together. Piers decided to accept the invitation, admitting that he ignored them previously, thinking they were weak. But he sees now the necessity of communicating with them. Piers arrived at the towering Tower of Monsters amidst the forest. There he was received by Draxon, the Demon King of Monsters who has ruled the place for 70 years, sitting on his throne, devouring meat fiercely. Draxon asked him dismissively if he was the new king who mocked traditions, describing him as unimpressive. Piers replied coldly, asking if he wanted a fight, asking him to state the reason for the invitation. Draxon laughed sarcastically and revealed that Archduke Arcane was the one who tasked him with watching him. Piers replied with a direct insult to the Archduke, describing him as an annoying old vampire and mocking that his exile to Aaron wasn't enough to make him happy. Draxon flew into a rage at this audacity in addressing the Archduke, and in a sudden provocative move, he threw a piece of meat towards Piers, ordering him to lick it. Draxon threatened to pardon his rudeness if he licked the piece of meat, but Piers ignored his threat with a rhetorical question, asking if Draxon really didn't know the reason for his presence here. Draxon explained arrogantly that he knew the reason, which is Piers' mockery of the sacred Demon King traditions. Piers interrupted him and reminded him that those traditions forbid them from killing each other. Then he stomped the ground with his foot, causing it to crack from the force of the impact. Draxon was shocked by his strength. Piers wondered sarcastically if he really believed he would adhere to that rule. Draxon felt a terrifying aura emitting from his opponent, making him realize too late his misjudgment of the situation. He tried stammering by mentioning Archduke Arcane and his orders to ensure the kidnapping of a princess, threatening Piers with losing his authority if he didn't submit a report within a month. Piers interrupted him coldly, telling him he expected this talk and revealed to him that he had actually kidnapped a princess. He added in a tone carrying an implied meaning that she fits his taste perfectly, which aroused Draxon's confusion. Piers left the Tower of Monsters, leaving Draxon behind. Then he returned to his tower in the Irised Mountains. Gordon praised his master for showing the greatness of the Demon King, but Piers downplayed what happened, confirming confirming that it wasn't special and that his opponent wouldn't dare do more currently. Despite that, he stressed the necessity of preparation and ordered Gordon to check the princess's condition to learn how to exploit her. In his heart, Piers felt worried about the stance of other demon kings. Realizing that their union against him would pose a major obstacle, he admitted that the consequences of mocking traditions were greater than he expected, but he insisted that if time went back, he would choose the same path again, preferring death over bowing to that garbage. He resolved not to repeat the mistakes of the past and to build his foundation from scratch this time. Although he expected to get few energy points from kidnapping a low-ranking princess, he considered it the safer option, but he was suddenly shocked when he checked his points and found them exceeding 13,000 points, which aroused his extreme astonishment. His thinking was interrupted by the arrival of a video message from the Tower of Monsters, making him wonder about its content. Draxon appeared in the video congratulating Piers as a new demon king, expressing his desire to offer a gift as a gesture of goodwill despite their bad first meeting. Draxon admitted that Piers' achievements in Aaron are not easy, showing admiration and wondering if his mockery of traditions was just a cover for something greater. Piers felt that something was not right. Suddenly, Gordon stormed the room, terrified, screaming that there was a serious problem on the 4th floor. Piers rushed there to find an unbelievable scene. The floor that was empty and cold had turned into a lush garden full of flowers and butterflies. The state of the tower showed that the process of naturalization was underway on the 4th floor. Amidst this magical garden, the princess stood surrounded by elemental spirits, making Piers realize that she created a complete ecosystem inside a magical tower. He realized that this achievement could only be done by someone who mastered the 4 elements and remembered that there is only one spirit elementalist in the continent capable of that. He confronted her with the fact that she is not the 13th princess, as he thought, to which she answered with a smile that she expected he mistook her for Elena. Piers asked her in amazement about her true identity. She revealed her name, Hilderin, declaring proudly that she is the first princess of the kingdom of Hilderin, and in the kingdom, the shocking news spread that the first princess had been kidnapped by the demon king. In the kingdom of Hilderin, the king flew into a rage, screaming, threatening whoever dared to kidnap his dear princess Nan, and ordered immediately gathering the strongest heroes and the entire army to retrieve her and cut off the head of the foolish demon king. Amidst this chaos, the princess returned to remind Piers of her previous question about whether he could handle her, confirming that this was the reason behind that question of hers. Piers explained that he was not deceived by her appearance, for he had heard of the existence of a genius elemental witch full of mana, and it was impossible not to detect her, wondering curiously how she hid that immense energy from him. The princess revealed a ring on her hand, explaining that it is a royal heirloom that can conceal mana. The princess asked Piers if he intended to return her after discovering her true identity, but he rejected the idea completely, considering that returning the princess would make him a laughingstock and no kingdom would fear him, which would make it difficult for him to collect demonic energy. He decided to hold on to her, whatever the cost. Suddenly, the system detected immense anger directed towards him, leading to a crazy rise in his demonic energy, points to exceed 19,000 points. Piers realized that the kingdom had identified him as the kidnapper, and that the situation wouldn't change whether she was the 1st or 13th princess. Piers confirmed to the princess that she was still a hostage of his in the kingdom. The king issued decisive orders to kill the demon king and retrieve the princess, but the advisors faced a dilemma as they did not yet know the identity of the responsible demon king. So they sent reconnaissance patrols and asked the king to wait. The king exploded in anger in their faces, scolding them for doing nothing while his daughter was kidnapped and ordered them to hurry and finding out the perpetrator. One of the advisors reminded the king of the recent kidnapping incident of a neighboring country's prince by the demon king of lust, and how that brought everyone's wrath upon him and led to his killing by the heroes. He wondered in confusion about the reason for the appearance of another demon king daring to to kidnap his princess, despite that living example, considering the matter extremely strange. The rest of the advisors realized that something was indeed strange. The king deduced that the news indicated a new demon king. Suddenly, a soldier arrived to inform them of important information where traces of teleportation magic were detected, heading north towards the Irgust Mountains. The king and his advisors were shocked by the destination, for the Irgust Mountains are located in the far north, while their kingdom is in the far south. In the Demon King's tower, Gordon expresses his worry about the arrival of the Hilderin Kingdom's army. But Piers was smiling with confidence, certain that the kingdom of Hilderin would not be able to reach him, given the danger of the road and the presence of many countries between them and the mountains. He had calculated the vast distance and the geographical and political obstacles preventing the passage of an army through other countries. Piers added that the intermediate countries would not open their borders to a foreign army, leaving them with only one option: hiring a heroes' guild. The king bowed to reality and ordered contact with the heroes' guild. But at the guild headquarters, panic and hesitation prevailed as soon as they heard the destination was the Irgest Mountains. The heroes refused to risk their lives in a place teeming with hellish monsters, considering that the king of Hilderin would be sending them to certain death. Piers predicted this scenario accurately, knowing that heroes driven by money would not risk going to a place that dangerous. And for this reason, he chose to build his base there. His tight planning and deep knowledge of Aaron impressed Gordon, who felt as if his master had lived in this place before, despite his apparent violation of the rules. In the kingdom, the king screamed in extreme amazement and anger at no hero stepping forward to take the mission, wondering how they dare call themselves heroes while failing to save the princess. The advisor tried to calm him down, explaining that heroes in the Aaron region are different from others, for they care about material profits more than anything else, making them extremely selective in their missions. Meanwhile, inside the tower, Piers was examining the system store, which offered him to purchase soldiers like skeletons at a cost of 10,000 points or weaken dimensional interference. Realizing that forming a suitable army would take a long time and huge resources, he sat on his throne, thinking seriously as he realized that his current demonic energy was absolutely insufficient to face a whole army of heroes. He remembered the old fear he knew well from his previous life. To overcome this obstacle, he issued an order to Gordon to contact Draxen immediately, announcing his intention to sell demonic energy for human money. Gordon was struck by overwhelming shock, screaming in amazement and disbelief at the idea. He tried to object, explaining that demonic energy is the currency of dreams that allows them to transcend the limits of their race, open tower features, and summon monsters. So, how could he exchange it for cheap human money? Piers justified his decision that he was confident Draxen would pay a huge sum and that without this money he wouldn't be able to stop the heroes with his current energy, and he confirmed there was one thing he could do using human money, directing his gaze towards the fortress city, Holton worked near the mountains. Piers arrived disguised in a mercenary outfit at the city gate, where the guards stopped him, sternly denouncing the madness of a mercenary coming to the Irgust Mountains alone and being suspicious of him. Instead of arguing, he threw a gold piece at them, which made them freeze in place. He winked at them, indicating splitting the amount between them, which made them open the way for him immediately. He entered the city and resolved to look for a guide due to his lack of knowledge of the place's details. The scene shifted to the headquarters of the Crimson Falcon Mercenary Guild, where members were drinking relaxedly, and one of them suggested leaving soon. But the leader rejected the idea, considering the place ideal. The leader explained their philosophy based on letting soldiers fight monsters while they content themselves with collecting battle spoils, wondering what could be better than that. The conversation touched upon the rumors of the new Demon King in the mountains, where one of them mocked it, describing it as fake news because demon kings usually build their towers in places easy for heroes to reach. They continued mocking the news of the kidnapping of the Hilderin princess, ruling out the idea that a demon king would cross the entire continent to kidnap a princess. One of them pointed out that the Heroes Guild refused the mission as soon as they heard the destination. They concluded in the end that the whole matter was just a play and a trick to extort more money. The leader agreed with their opinion, acknowledging the madness of these people when it comes to money. Suddenly, Piers appeared behind the leader, realizing then the reason for their behavior. The mercenaries jumped up, terrified by his sudden appearance among them, wondering about his identity. Piers smiled sarcastically, noting that they seemed widely knowledgeable about matters, making them ideal guides for him, and ordered that only one remain while the rest leave. The mercenaries attacked him, considering him an intruder and vowing he wouldn't leave alive. A violent fight broke out, but Piers countered them with extreme skill, dealing crushing blows. One of them tried to ambush him from behind, but Piers blocked the attack with amazing speed. The enemy was shocked when Piers caught his hammer with that ease. In the end, he found himself surrounded by mercenaries aiming their crossbows at him. Piers continues fighting and throws the huge enemy towards the other mercenaries. The mercenary leader becomes frightened and describes Piers as a monster after he finished off his colleagues with complete ease. Outside the mercenary building, one of them asked in despair why they continue fighting, and another wondered why they didn't feel tired from so much fighting. After Piers finished off the rest of the mercenaries, he approached their leader. He approached him slowly and with eyes shining in the dark, assured him he would keep him alive if he answered his questions. The mercenary leader, lying beneath him, trembled with fear and hastened to agree, begging for mercy. Piers asked them about the location of the slave market. The leader led him to a luxurious palace with a huge iron gate. Piers saw that the market sells only human slaves. The leader asked him hesitantly if that didn't please him, for Piers to ask him if there was something rarer, and throws a bag of gold coins towards him. The leader's attitude changes immediately, and he leads him to another section of the market. On the way, Piers wondered to himself how the leader could remain calm after seeing what happened to his mercenary followers, concluding bitterly that humans and demons are no different. The former craves money, and the latter craves energy. They arrived at underground dungeons where the leader pointed to the way. Piers remembered when Gordon asked him what he intended to do with human money, so Piers answered him that he would buy slaves. He defined his goal precisely that other races captured by humans. He explained he was looking specifically for an elf known for his integrity to use him as a spy planting chaos among the ranks of heroes. Meanwhile, the hero Helen Cargill arrived to the kingdom where the king received him warmly, expressing his confidence in the hero accepting the mission. Hyland confirmed his acceptance, pledging to save the princess and bring the demon king's head in the name of justice. Back at the slave market, the merchant asked Piers what kind of slaves he wanted, so Piers pointed to a detained elf and said he would buy him, indicating that the mercenary would pay the price. The mercenary was shocked and objected, but Piers shot him a terrifying look that made him retreat immediately and agreed, stammering. Piers asked his companions to leave the room because he wanted to check something, but the merchant warned him that the elf might go wild, but Piers assured him he would pay the price if any harm occurred. Piers looked at the chained elf. Noticing how humans turned this noble creature into a miserable slave, the elf felt Piers' demonic energy and asked him in astonishment why a demon was interested in an elf. Piers offered him a chance for revenge against humans. The elf admitted the offer was tempting, but he couldn't trust demons just as he doesn't trust humans. Piers assured him he was different and offered him a deal, loyalty for 50 years in exchange for safety and freedom, and reminded him that 50 years is not a long time for his race, and that this offer is much better than the humiliation he lives in. But the elf refused the offer, reminding Piers that demons seek to destroy the world tree served by elves, and consequently destroy the world it maintains. He asked sharply how he could trust him. Piers realized deep down that the elf had hit the nail on the head, and that asking for help from an elf is strange in the first place. Piers sworn on the Demon King standards that he would keep his promise and would not harm the world tree, an oath that equals in sanctity for demons the sanctity of the tree for elves. In return, he asked the elf Granada Granada of the Maple tribe to swear on the World Tree loyalty to him for 50 years. Granada was surprised by this strange demon's behavior, but agreed on the condition that he sees the demon king who sent Piers. Here, Piers surprised him by revealing his true identity as the demon king. Granada was shocked by what he said. Granada mocked this claim, denouncing the idea that a demon king would come himself to buy a slave, especially since their power weakens the further they get from their tower. He challenged Piers sarcastically that he would pledge allegiance for 100 years, instead of 50, if he proved his words true. The scene shifted immediately to the 5th floor of Piers' tower, where Granada found himself suddenly there. Piers reminded him of the 100-year promise, making Granada realize he was before a real demon king. Granada started complaining about the tower's emptiness, pointing out the lack of anything up to the 3rd floor. His disapproval increased when he saw the 4th floor contained only nature without any monsters, wondering sarcastically how Piers plans to stop heroes with such a dilapidated tower. He assured him that at this rate he wouldn't last a single year before heroes tore him apart, refusing to work in a place like this. Piers responded with immense pressure from his raw demonic energy, reminding the elf of the contract concluded between them. Granada felt extreme terror from that overwhelming power, certain he was in the presence of a real demon king. Gradually, he realized a terrifying truth. The tower, despite its emptiness, is located in the IR Mountains full of disaster-level monsters, yet no monster attacked them while coming, meaning those monsters fear this demon king. Granada bowed to reality and swore the oath of loyalty on the name of the Great World Tree, pledging service for 100 years. Deep down, he hoped to get his revenge through an evil plan the king would assign him, but Piers shocked him with his first request and asked him to prepare a meal for him. The elf stood stunned and not comprehending the matter. While cutting vegetables in the kitchen, he wondered in confusion why he was doing this housework instead of participating in an evil scheme. Princess Erin joined him and offered help enthusiastically, increasing the elf's confusion about what was happening in this place. Everyone moved to the dining room on the 5th floor, where they sat around a bountiful table. Granada asked his master hesitantly about the girl's identity for Piers to reveal to him that she is the first Princess Hilderin. Granada was struck by another shock, screaming madly in his master's face for kidnapping the crown princess. He returned to questioning the utility of the empty tower against the upcoming hero attack. But Piers didn't care and ordered him to sit and eat, explaining that this is the real reason for buying him. His cooking skill is excellent. The princess also sat smiling while the elf drowned in complete confusion at this surreal situation. In the end, the elf wondered if Piers intended to make him fight the heroes on the 4th floor. But Piers denied that, confirming that if the heroes reached there, the game would have already ended because they would have crossed the Irgest Mountains. Piers revealed to Granada his intention to make him a spy, stirring unrest in the human world on his behalf, but pointed out the necessity of doing something else before that. He explained his need to test the elf's skills, which made Granada wonder himself in amazement how to defeat a demon king inside his tower. Piers offered conditions for the confrontation, fighting with one hand and without using demonic energy, in exchange for reducing the contract duration by 50 years if the elf won. Granada accepted the challenge enthusiastically, vowing to give his all in this duel. The clash began with fast and sudden movements. Piers praised his opponent's movements, which were not affected by long years of slavery, wondering if he had absorbed mana from the 4th floor or enhanced his physical abilities, describing his style as fitting for the elf race. Granada responded with a powerful magical attack, confirming his abilities exceed a normal elf and warning Piers against the mistake of choosing the opponent in place. The elf managed to bind Piers' foot with magical plant roots. He saw in that a golden opportunity to reclaim his 50 years. Considering his opponent's defenses completely exposed, He directed a direct, confident strike towards Piers, but he was suddenly shocked by the aura of terrifying power and remembered with horror who he was facing. Piers assured him he would keep his promise not to use demonic energy and that he would control his power to avoid killing him. Granada tried to stop him in panic, but Piers delivered a powerful punch that ended the confrontation. The scene shifted to the city of Horton Walk, where the Crimson Falcon mercenary headquarters is. The mercenaries welcomed Piers very warmly this time, expressing their honor to meet him again. He offered to hire their services for a year. So, the leader agreed immediately, asking about the budget, while one member was mumbling indignantly about their leader fawning over the person who beat them up. Piers threw a heavy bag full of gold as a down payment. The mercenaries declared their eternal loyalty to him, claiming loyalty as their trait, while their leader thought seriously about replacing them with another squad in the future. He ordered them to include the man accompanying him in their team, explaining he would convey his orders from now on, which caused hesitation among mercenaries at first. Granada stepped forward and introduced himself. Signs of misery and crying appeared on the mercenaries' faces as they embraced Granada after noticing his smashed face, a result of Piers beating him, which made them feel affinity towards him after they suffered the same fate. Piers thought to himself that these mercenaries, despite their average appearance, are professionals working in the Irist region and cannot be easily replaced, and that the only hero who agreed to the Hilderin Kingdom's request is the hero Helen Cargill, who defeated the Demon King of Lust. Piers addressed the mercenaries as their new leader. Piers revealed the first mission, which is investigating the matter of the hero Highland Cargill, employed by the Kingdom of Hilderin. The mercenaries responded with enthusiasm and seriousness, declaring their obedience to orders. Piers returned to his tower, thinking about the next step. After leaving the hero's matter to Granada, he decided the time had come to increase his personal power. Given that he sold all demonic energy points usually used to enhance the tower or king, his only remaining option to increase power is another means. His choice fell on the soul flower, a mana crystal that sprouts after absorbing nature's energy and grants its eater immense power. Piers thought to himself that the Air Mountains, due to harsh mana storms and strong monsters, their nature remained virgin, untouched by human hands, making soul flowers absorb nature's mana for long years and become extremely pure. He considered the place a buried treasure for these flowers, and although less effective than demonic energy, it is better than nothing. Deciding to go look for them, Gordon warned him of the danger of going without preparation, likening it to searching for a needle in a haystack and reminding him that monsters would attack him as soon as they saw a chance. Piers replied confidently that he could handle monsters easily, but acknowledged the difficulty of finding the flowers, as Gordon mentioned, unless he possessed an excellent mana detector. Their conversation was interrupted by a light knock on the door. Princess Arnon poked her head in with a cute blue slime creature on her head, asking if they were busy. Piers and Gordon were surprised to see her. The princess went out happily running and playing with the elemental spirits filling the place and seemed very enjoying. The princess expressed her extreme enthusiasm, admitting she had been bored recently, and reminded Piers of his promise to allow her to decorate the 4th floor as she pleased. Piers stood amazed watching her that she had already decorated the place to her taste, wondering how far she would go with that, and that her mere thought of decorating a demon king's tower is a crazy matter in itself. The princess turned to him with a shy smile, admitting she didn't expect to be allowed to leave the tower, but she was happy she came to check. Piers suddenly carried her in his arms, asking her to hold on tight, and flew her out of the tower before she comprehended what was happening. He took off with her flying in the sky at great speed. The princess looked at the world from above with wide, amazed eyes, admitting she didn't notice the beauty of the scenery because she was kidnapped in the dark. The view of the sunrise and clouds dazzled her, and she mumbled in amazement about how vast the world is. She remembered her monotonous life in the palace where every day was a repetition of the previous one, from magical training and studying rule. Believing she would spend her whole life like that until she died, She told Piers that she might be the only person who flew over the Earest Mountains. Piers didn't care about the information, but directed her attention to the task required of her. The princess asked him to call her by her name, since they would spend a long time together. Piers agreed, but scolded her for forgetting her position, threatening to transfer her to the underground prison if she didn't use her spirits to find the soul flowers. Ernan apologized and used her water and wind spirit to search. Piers expected the search to take time, but he was confident they would be faster than him. Suddenly, Erin shouted that she found something. Piers landed in the specified location to find monsters around the flower and said there were guests who beat them to it. A group of huge monsters appeared, and Piers explained to the princess that monsters are a demon breed that left the demon world, asking them to obey his orders as a demon king, not touch the flower and leave. But the monsters refused to obey, declaring they don't listen to demons' words and don't like them, and threatened to kill him. Piers laughed sarcastically, acknowledging Gordon was right, and realized his mistake in expecting logical thinking from monsters, deciding to burn them all and turn them to ash. The monsters attacked fiercely, screaming with intent to kill and protect what they consider theirs. The battle began amidst screams of pain and burning. The monsters attacked Piers, screaming in anger, but Piers burned everyone who stood in his way. One of the monsters directed his orders to hit the weakest first, pointing at Erin. The monsters rushed towards her with immense force, but Piers fired scorching flames towards them, finishing them all off, while Ernan stood firm, remembering that orcs of the bull tribe are known for their ability to bring down ogres if they cooperate. Yet she saw them helpless, even to get close to her. Piers released immense demonic energy, making realize its destructive power. In a moment, the scene turned into total destruction, where Piers stood alone amidst corpses. Ernan was amazed by the purity of mana emitting from a ruby spiritual flower with water and ice attributes she found amidst the snow, but Piers warned her against being greedy for it. Piers promised he would give her one if she found more, which made her eyes shine with joy and enthusiasm, and he commented sarcastically that humans only get excited by rewards. But unfortunately, Nan didn't find any other flower despite her strenuous search until exhaustion. They returned to Piers' tower, where Piers thought about Erin, and that she is the first princess of Hilderin, and Piers mumbled that he thought it was a mistake at first. Piers realized she might be more useful than he expected. Gordon told Piers that he received a sudden and quick call from Granada, where Granada told him that the hero Highland Cargill and 32 other heroes had left the capital, but they are not heading towards the Irgest Mountains. He explained they would follow the classic hero path, forming a team, then growing through villager quests and increasing their strength during the journey. Gordon offered alternative plans for the hero's journey, asking Piers to read them carefully. But Piers surprised Gordon by throwing those plans aside, which aroused his astonishment. Piers announced his shocking decision not to send any monsters or obstacles to hinder the hero's journey. This time he justified that incomplete obstacles do nothing but make heroes stronger, and ordered Gordon to convey this message to Granada and accompany the heroes with the mercenaries to gain their trust. Gordon commented that his master, as usual, doesn't follow traditional standards, and wondered anxiously how to stop heroes with their current tower. Piers reassured him he would reinforce the tower, but using a dwarf. Gordon objected strongly, considering that the presence of a dwarf alongside a human and an elf in the tower would make them a laughingstock. Piers scoffed at his followers' grumbling. Piers explained he didn't intend to rely on the dwarf himself, but on magical tools made by dwarves. He explained his diabolical idea. Since heroes are used to Demon King standards, they would expect weak monsters on the first floor, but they would be surprised by dozens of cannons. Gordon realized the heroes wouldn't be ready for that. Gordon shook his head in despair, admitting this plan strays far from familiar standards. Suddenly, Gordon screamed in panic, pointing out another kidnapping that just happened. The scene shifted to the city of Wulfnir, the underground city of dwarves. There, Logar Friedrich, the best blacksmith among dwarves, was practicing his work skillfully. Logar seemed indifferent, unaware that he became the next target for the rebellious Demon King planning to kidnap.